So just a brief overview of how this presentation is going to go. We are going to review the survey demographic, and then I'm going to recall the survey questions that this is going to go over. We'll talk about the top 4 responses from each of those questions. And then for those who are all participating with us via Facebook live stream, there's an opportunity to get together after this in small group to have a discussion. So I encourage you to join us on the Zoom side. I put here in the comment section on Facebook Live where to register for the Zoom event, and we'll do a small group discussion. We have a couple of reflection questions, and then if we have multiple small groups, we'll do a large group wrap up, and then we'll get to just come back together, and if there are any additional questions, we'll go over those. If you're listening, again, please share this on your Facebook, on your news feeds. This is something that is being recorded, obviously, with it being live. And there's just a lot of good data here. And I hope that you have a chance to hear what other military young adults are going through, what really great things and joys that they're experiencing, and perhaps some of them resonate with you. So just going back to the demographics for the survey, we had 115 individuals participate in this survey. Majority of those respondents, 70.4%, identified as young adults who are active or engaged in the Catholic faith. 15.7 considered themselves inactive. And the difference there we talked about was, that we asked about was those who are attending Mass frequently, in this time, live streaming Mass, or perhaps those who are not going to Mass as much anymore. Approximately 31.3% of the respondents were between the ages of 18 to 29, while 62.6% were between the ages of 30 and 39. 39.1% were Air Force, 35.7% were Army, 15.7% were Navy, and 3.5% were Marine Corps, while we had 4.3% who were Coast Guard. And this includes also military spouses. And then that brings me to my final note here is we had 37.4% who were active duty military, 47.8% who were active duty military spouses, and 7% who reserve and guard. So these are the survey questions that we're going to go over today. Please describe a time when your Catholic faith made a difference in your life. In what ways do you grow in the Catholic faith? As you read this quote from other young people, does it ring true with your experience? And I'll share with you what that quote is later. Where do you find the most joy in your life? What do you enjoy about your experience with the military? What are your dreams and goals? So the first question, The first question that we had was, please describe a time when your Catholic faith made a difference in your life. The top 4 categories which respondents, their answers fell under were these 4. And just to note, you can see here at the bottom of each of these slides, some of these were optional questions. So I'll make a note of how many people answered and how many people skipped the question, just so that you have that frame of mind. But for this question, we had the top 4 were everyday life, deployments, converting to the Catholic faith, and hardship. Those were the top 4 categories in which military young adults shared when their Catholic faith made a difference to them in their life. And I can share with you a couple of quotes on what some of that meant to them. So everyday life, being Catholic always makes a difference in my life every day. When you live out your calling from Christ, follow his teachings, and love your neighbor in your heart and actions, you will impact everyone you come in contact with. For deployments, many shared that since being in the military, being separated from family, and during deployments, my faith has helped me get through trial after trial. And after that, converting to the Catholic faith, an adult convert, this was quote, as an adult convert, converting to the Catholic faith made a difference in their life, but my faith in our Lord Jesus Christ makes a difference in my life always. And then finally, hardship, specifically sharing the faith to those in need in the military during shared hardship together. That is when they felt like they were, the Catholic faith was making a difference in their life. The next question that we had was, in what ways do you grow in your Catholic faith? For this question, we gave several options. Respondents were allowed to select several. So you can see here from our chart, going to Mass, personal prayer, confession, and small group study were considered the top 4 ways in which military young adults grow in their faith. You can see here we had small group study, in a variety of forms. We also did allow respondents to share other ways in which they might grow. But of course, as you can see from these numbers, none of those options outweighed the other top 4. So that's just here to note. But those were the top 4 ways. The next question is, as you read this quote from other young people, does it ring true with your experience? And I'll read the quote for you here. It is from Christus Vivit, which is the apostolic exhortation letter from the Holy Father, Pope Francis, which the symposium was inspired by. So let me just read a quote from Christus Vivit on finding joy. A common dream across continents and oceans is the desire to find a place where the young person can feel that he or she belongs. We need to revitalize the sense of community that leads us to a sense of belonging. What is important to note is that regardless of context, everyone shares the same innate desire for the higher ideals: peace, love, trust, equity, freedom, and justice. So we asked respondents to think about that question and try to relate to it. As you read this quote from other young people, does it ring true with your experience? We had a variety, did the typical survey questionnaire here, and we allowed people to consider the ways in which it related to them. And 36% here said that this quote rings true to their experience a great deal. 31.73% said a lot, that this quote rings true a lot to them. And then a moderate amount at 21.1% said that this quote rings true to their experience. And our next question. Our next question was, where do you find the most joy in your life? The top 4 answers here were family life, spending time with friends, physical activity, and church ministries that military young adults are a part of. As you can see here, family life had a significant, it was a pretty highly selected response compared to the other 3, but I think that they're all still important to note. And again, here we offered the opportunity for respondents to select other, but it did not account for a large enough amount. The next question was, what do you enjoy about your experience with the military? For this question, the top 4 categories in which respondents' answers um, were, which they fell under, were people, community, meeting and or connecting with new people, and travel. And it's important to note here that these categories were selected in such a way that it's understood that they have a lot of commonality between them, right? The top 3 all involve people, but this was an open-ended question. And again, here, I think it was important just to share more directly what the respondents, how they phrased their answer to this question. And there was a little bit of a distinction between these. And I hope that the quotes help you. So I'm going to share some of them now. So again, what do you enjoy about your experience with the military? Many respondents said people. I love the people that I've met, especially because they're so diverse. I've met amazing people who are true friends, almost family. For community, the community and sense of belonging with people who are going through the same thing as I am. That is something that they've enjoyed about their military experience. Again, under community, the supportive community, no matter where in the world we are, is very comforting. So there were elements of what community meant that I wanted to highlight with that one. And then in the third one here, meeting and connecting with new people. The military is a unique opportunity to meet and share time with people otherwise you wouldn't know. And I heard that a lot with those responses that fell under this category, that this was, again, a chance that you could meet people that you don't know, or just having the diverse cultures and just meeting people in different places wherever you might get stationed. But certainly, I think that a lot of people express that the military really offers a chance, literally every assignment, to meet new people. And finally, travel. This is something that military young adults have enjoyed about their military experience. Being in the military, serving in the military, or being a military spouse really provides the privilege and the opportunity to travel the world. So that is all of the responses for the opportunity side of the military young adult Catholic military young adult survey. And at this time, I'm going to leave us a few moments to sign on to the Zoom side. So once again, before we go into that, uh, this this webinar was originally intended to be recorded for this time frame for 7 a.m. But due to technical difficulties, we moved the live portion of this to right now. And we also had a military young adult last Tuesday evening share with us how some of these responses resonated with her own experience. So what you'll see next is a recording. And I'm going to first share an introduction to the person who provided this presentation at our first iteration of this webinar. So let me just share with you Noreen. Noreen Domingo is a 2018 graduate of the United States Naval Academy. Upon commissioning, she joined the surface warfare community and was stationed in San Diego, a part of the USS Gabriel Giffords LCS-10, and served as the first lieutenant. She currently works at ComNav Surface Division 11. In 2018, she founded Capadonna Society with Notre Dame grad and former Navy pilot David Murphy. The group works to live up to their namesake, Father Capadano, by providing resources and community to military Catholics, their families, and friends in order to concurrently achieve vocational and spiritual excellence. She is an active member of the St. Bridget's Young Adult community in Pacific Beach, San Diego. And you can typically find her hosting a community event, surfing, or playing beach volleyball with her friends. So that is Noreen, and I'm going to share her military young adult witness that she gave in at the last Tuesday's webinar iteration. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and you'll see her video come up.
Casey. Hi, everyone. Is my audio working this time? Perfect. Great. I was saying, hi, I'm coming from San Diego. I'm really happy to see some familiar faces from throughout the years through Capadonna Society and also just my time at the Naval Academy. So I'm glad to see some old faces and some new ones. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to see the Archbishop is here. Nice to see you. The data that you did, I think that'll really tie into like what my experience was and is as a commissioned officer. So I'll just begin that like Casey mentioned, I'm a 2018 grad of the United States Naval Academy. And thankfully, while I was there, we had a very strong Catholic midshipman presence, thankfully through the other midshipmen and also through Focus. And so I'd say the last 2 years of my time at Navy, I really got more heavily involved. And through that, through their authentic friendship and just going to things like SLS, like the Focus conferences or Seek, I felt I was very primed to be a lay leader on board. And so going into the fleet as a recent grad, I thought that I would have this amazing evangelization on the ship. I thought I was going to have these awesome like lay leader services. I just have an open door policy with all the sailors, like, oh yeah, just come in, like we can talk about Catholic things. And I soon found out that's not what it's going to be like. And it was interesting because most people just want to maybe talk about work, what's going on with their lives, like not necessarily want to talk about faith blatantly. And that's kind of where I learned that that's where my role is. Like, I let it be known that I'm Catholic. I let it be known that I was a lay leader, but I never really forced things on people. I wasn't trying to evangelize on board. I was just there to listen. And I think that was my first experience as a military Catholic, was being on board and being open and showing our love through, showing Christianity to others, like through my love to everyone on board. And so soon people were coming up to me talking about, okay, so like, what are your thoughts on abortion? What are your thoughts on how people find God, X, Y, and Z? And that became the first notable experience I had. And I was really grateful for that. And because of that, and because I stood my ground, I knew that people respected my point of view, and they also weren't there to like try to convince me otherwise. And I think that that's how most people are. They're not going to try to tell you like, oh, hey, you're wrong for thinking that, or you should see it this way. So I was really grateful to experience being Catholic on board in such a way that we were able to foster discussions. And then also it also made me more approachable as an officer. I remember one time I had a senior enlisted leader come into my room. I honestly thought I was in trouble, but instead she just wanted to talk to me about what's going on in her life. And it was really beautiful because I was like really able to talk to someone through their struggles and just be a lending ear. And then going forward to that, I soon realized that my idea of what I was going to be as a lay leader was not what happened of like me having a big evangelization on board. Because honestly, my lay leader services were audiences of one. And that was myself. And so that was also interesting, just because everyone is so focused on working on board when we're underway that it's almost silly that we even had a lay leader service. And I'd have to go to like the planning meetings, like, hey, make sure we have lay leader services, just because that was on no one's radar. And so that was that on the board, on the ship. But I kind of want to turn the tide a little bit, because where I did find the best opportunities was not where I thought I was going to find them. And so, like Casey mentioned, my friend David and I call him Deej, my friend Deej and I, we started the Capadonna Society at St. Bridget's, and that was born out of a pilgrimage that him and I did. I just had all these questions as an ensign. He was an LT at the time. And I was like, Deej, what happens when I go to Thailand and it's deployment and everyone wants to go to like the bars, or like everyone wants to go to a strip club, everyone wants to do X, Y, and Z. Like, what do I do? How do I stand my ground without looking lame and like ostracizing myself? And pretty much that's how Capadonna Society was born. He said, what if we made a group where people in the military who are Catholic can go to this parish, can go to this group, and they get the whole lay of the land. They find the parish for them. They can find a mentor, a mentee, et cetera, et cetera. They find out where the young adults groups are. Like, we can make this one-time shot. And we're like, perfect, let's do it. So we make the group. We make Capadonna Society for the purpose of iron sharpens iron. And so that was the goal. That was the original goal. And it was for the purpose of finding that fellowship so that we can be stronger Catholics on board, so we can be more effective lay leaders, so we can be just more bold in the faith. And that's where it started. And as all things go, as you continue to discern, or as I continue to discern, as I continue to learn about what the needs are of the military Catholic community, it then became the mission you heard Casey say, which was we want to provide community and resources to military Catholics and their families and friends to achieve vocational and spiritual excellence, so that we can be well-formed Catholics, so we can be given the opportunity to be the best officer, be the best senior enlisted leader, be the best junior sailor, and even be the best spouse, be the best friend possible to an active duty service member or a veteran. And so that's really where I found my stride as a military Catholic, because now I'm actually no longer on board. I'm on shore now, but that's really found my stride. And I found my stride there because I was able to meet more people outside of my command. And I never saw that coming. I never saw that. I always thought my job as a Catholic in the military was to be a military Catholic at my command. I never knew that there would be an opportunity to reach other military Catholics who are even in different services on different bases, and create a community with them and create a fellowship outside, so that we can go back to our commands and be the best Catholic. And also to serve their children. Like, so I'd meet people's children. I'm like, well, your vocation is just to be a child. Like, how are you getting the resources to be a child? I mean, of course, the parents, but like also like as community leader, I can provide events where all the children can come together and go in a polar plunge and learn about Lent, which is what we did. We had a polar plunge to teach them about asceticism. And so that was great. Or, like having the spouses get together to talk about what it's going to be like to have your loved one go off on deployment for the first time, and how are you going to maintain the household, or having a speaker come in and talk about career transition, because there's so many of us who are getting out of the service, and how are they going to handle that period of their lives? How are they going to handle that? And we're called to so many different vocations that's our new focus now, is that we want to provide that community. And so on top of that, like I said earlier, I really like how Casey mentioned the different activities that military Catholics engage in order to be closer to the faith. And so that's something I've also looked into, because I had to think, okay, what is a military Catholic going to go to when on their off time to another military thing? Like, what are they going to actually want to go to? And so I had to look into it. So that's why we also made the type of polar plunge, because believe it or not, the polar plunge was mainly attended by young adults. And so that was something they're interested, like, yeah, polar plunge, let's go. Like, I'll go to that. Or maybe coming up with different fellowship events, seeing what people are really into. So that's been a great joy, is to get to know the different members in San Diego who are not at my command or who are not even in the Navy. We have people who are in love with exercising. So we have exercising days. Like, okay, so you're going to get out there. Or maybe we talk about health and wellness. And so making sure we have surfing days so that we can incorporate an active lifestyle into people who maybe are suffering with PTSD or depression. And the most surprising of it all was that this has also been a really great way of creating civil military relations, because since San Diego is such a big Navy and civilian town, we've been able to invite a lot of our civilian friends to the different events where they learn more about what it is to be in the military, so that when one of us is saying, oh yeah, we're going on an underway for 2 months, they understand we're not going on deployment, we're going on a training and we'll be back. But it really helps us create a community where people are more understood. People are not left on the back burner when they go off on deployment and kind of forgotten, which I've seen people experience. And so it's just been a really great way to get to know the entirety of the military Catholic community. So not just fellow service members, but also the veterans, the spouses, the friends, the kids. And then on top of that, a great way for the civilian community and the military community to come together, and just a really great way for us to always stay involved and connected. That I honestly, if you had told me I was going to do this at the Naval Academy, I may have believed you, but I probably would have laughed, like, that's a lot to do for one person. But thankfully, between Deej and I, we've been able to create this amazing community outside of our respective commands, but definitely at the heart of so many service members' lives. And it's just been a great blessing. And I think it's a really great way to not only have a positive experience in my own life, but it's something I can see is taking or making a positive experience in other people's lives through our community that we make. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Noreen. Thank you for sharing that. And she didn't mention it, but I will here in Capadonna, or maybe I can just briefly ask you, Capadonna Society has expanded a little bit to Okinawa. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So thankfully, through the Capadonna Society and through my time at the Naval Academy, we've had a lot of great, I've made a lot of great connections. And as I tell people about Capadonna Society, I have friends who say, well, I want one. I want to make a Capadonna Society where I'm at. And so we are in the process of making one in Okinawa, and then also in the process of making one in Jacksonville. And so, yes. And then also Pensacola. Pensacola is new. And so we're making them in these different places. And I forgot to mention as well, like through Evangelical Catholic and through AMS, we're doing quads, which is we're making these small groups for people to intentionally meet together for a year. And that's also another way that we're expanding Capadonna Society. And also through Casey, making the young adult, the how to make a group, make a young adult group. So yeah, so even if it's not officially a Cap Society chapter, there are people who are now making more intentional groups wherever they're at. So it's been really great and definitely been blessed by the Holy Spirit. Yeah. Oh, and also having collaborations with other Catholic ministries and Catholic companies who are reaching out to see, oh, can we be a part of this? How can we be a resource? Or maybe I'm reaching out to them, and next thing you know, we have a partnership. So yeah, it's been really, really helpful and blessed.
Thank you, Noreen. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your time, and thank you for answering the Lord in a really very unique way, and using your gifts and just your witness to the faith to. Okay, so that was Noreen's recording from last Tuesday. So as you heard, I wanted to give her thanks, and I hope that you got to hear some exciting things that are going on in San Diego among the sailors and Marines who are stationed out there. There are a lot of awesome ministries, both military and civilian, going on there. And Noreen has really answered her baptismal call and being able to share that. And you can just see the joy in her face and how she's had the opportunity to serve there. So I much give her thanks for giving her time to us last week